Hello friends, and welcome to another Library Guide podcast. Today's guest is Thomas Donlon, Library Director at Port Jefferson Free Library. Today Tom will be talking to us about the controversial program to be held at Port Jefferson Free Library, Drag Queen Story Hour.
Okay, so Drag Queen Storytime is exactly what it is. Drag Queen is going to come and read stories to kids, and it's actually, they're not books about cross-dressing, it's not books about sexuality, it's not books about gender fluidity, it's just books about acceptance and inclusion, and we're able to veto any books that this person wants to read or doesn't want to read, that kind of thing. We have the list, and it's all just general books that a regular Storytime would be doing anyway, but it's all focused on inclusion and acceptance and that kind of thing, and diversity. It came about, there's an organization that does it. It's a non-for-profit, and it's actually called Drag Queen Storytime, and they're based out of San Francisco, and they've been doing this, I think, 2 years. They've been doing it all over the country. You know, we're the first on Long Island to do it, but Brooklyn has done it, and New Jersey has done it, so it's definitely been in this area before, so we're definitely not doing anything new. So it came about because a mom came in, and she had, I can't remember if she had attended one or she's sort of posted somewhere, and she asked us to look into it, and said, would we be interested in doing it? So we said, like everything, all suggestions, like, yeah, we'll look into it and let you know. And of course, I didn't take a contact info, but we looked into it, and we saw, how they're trained to do this. It's not just some person on the street. There's somebody who's trained to do a story time, which is great for us. And we liked the message, so we called up, and Miss Harmonica Sunshine's coming out next Saturday.
So what kind of blowback have you gotten, Tom, about the program?
Really, it's fallen into two categories, I'd say. One is the very antagonistic, name-calling. I've been called a degenerate, a pedophile, a sexual predator, and usually those people don't leave their contact information. And actually, honestly, when I try to get them to express why they're upset with it, which has been very difficult because they seem to be very wound up and they're acting emotionally, so it's hard to get an intellectual answer out of them. Because I can see people have legitimate issues with the program. I did, and I have some of those people too, but the more antagonistic, they usually don't leave their name or the contact information. Their reaction to it seems to be severe in terms of not even finding out why we're doing this or what's going on. They seem to be jumping to conclusions, saying that we're performing pedophilia and all these things that have nothing to do with what a drag queen is. I start trying to explain that drag queens are performance art, and I try to say it's about RuPaul, and because RuPaul is a good person to center this conversation on, because RuPaul's a drag queen, and it seems, and I'm not up on the gay community or the LGBTQ issues, but I do know that there's a difference between a cross-dresser and a drag queen, so when I try to explain that stuff to them, I don't really get anywhere, and they just want to keep on yelling at me, and either I do what they want regardless of what support we have in the community, or there's going to be extremes. I'm going to be fired, they're going to get Kim fired, they're going to get a new board in here, they're going to get us defunded, because we're promoting all these terrible, horrible things. So I probably had, I would say, 5 reach outs, of people, some phone calls, some online, some emails. The language seems the same, so maybe it's not the same people, but I was getting a feeling it was a couple of people reaching out in different ways. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. We expect protesters on Saturday. We let the constables know that this is going on, that kind of thing. But again, this isn't about sexuality, and this isn't about pedophilia or even gender identity. This is just about inclusion, and we felt that this person would be a good person to talk about inclusion and diversity, and how somebody who was ostracized can really do damage to kids. So we thought that was a good way to go. And of course, these people that are yelling and screaming haven't stopped to ask what other inclusion programs that we're looking to do. They're very upset about this person coming here. So that's the first reaction that I've been getting, and then there's the second one that's not supportive, and more rational. They want to have a discussion. They're willing to give me their name and their phone number. They have questions about, usually it's about the age group. They feel it's a little inappropriate for people that age. They're going to be a little confused. And then it's about some people just don't think it's needed to be done. And some people just think that it's the library trying to stir things up, and we don't really want, we're not trying to do an inclusive thing, but we just want to prove a point. Those people I think I could work with more, because they want to sit down and talk with me, and they're also willing to work with me on what programs they thought would be better for an inclusion, which is fine with me. I'll sit down with anybody, and as long as they're respectful and want to be inclusionary, that I will do any program that they want, especially if it's from our community. So those people have been good, and in fact, a couple of those people live in the village, and haven't had library cards, so I got some people to come down and get library cards. So so that worked out well, you know. And then of course there's the other side, where the support side, where I've had people who are parents and want to introduce this to their kids so that they can start a topic about, you know, what is gender fluidity and what is gay people and bi people and that kind of thing. And this will be a stepping stone so that when they're home and they can engage their kids in a more positive aspect instead of maybe relying on TV shows or anything of a more superficial representation of these issues. So that's been good. And then the other support that I've gotten is people who don't have kids, but they love the idea, so they've been very happy that the library is doing this. And I just actually got a letter this morning with the 19-year-old and 20-year-old, and she just wished that there was something like this when her daughter was growing up and was struggling. So, you know, to see a positive influence and a positive aspect of somebody who's, you know, in the LGBT community seems to be hitting a point with people, and they seem to enjoy it. They think it's a good thing. So,
how did your library board take to it? Did they? I'm assuming they support you, but have you got any? Have you gotten any message from them?
Yeah, I got a couple of board members came right out once I explained what we were doing, and you know, said this is a program. And of course, I also explained too that we didn't expect this kind of reaction. Maybe, you know, we were silly, but right away, about 3 of them just came out and said unequivocally they support this. They think it's a good thing, and that they'll stand behind us all the way. I had one person question the need for the program. She felt at some point that it was either pushing a gay agenda or that people would be mandated for some reason to go to this. I wasn't quite understanding where she was going, but she had said at one point she felt like if the school might force kids to go to this, and I said nobody's being forced to go to this. I said nobody's, you know, and we're not pushing a gay agenda so much as where we are pushing, you know, here's this person doing a story time, and then the parents who, you know, it's up to the parents whether they want to bring their kids or not. You know, they'll be the ones to engage. And I said people who don't want to come, I said I will gladly steer them towards another program that would better suit their interests. You know, as libraries, we try to hit as every aspect of our community as possible, and as much as there's conflict in our community, we feel like we have a duty to represent, you know, all the different people here. And even if some people don't enjoy, or we'd like to realize that this community group is within their own community. So especially when the message is inclusionary and about acceptance, we feel that that's right in line with what libraries should be doing. You know, if that makes sense.
How do you feel, as director of the Port Jefferson Free Library, how do you feel that this fits into your service profile?
Well, I feel, you know, I think it's right up our alley. You know, this is something that we should be doing. We have, I think there's a large community in here that would be able to take something from this story time and be able to communicate with their children better, or with each other, and be able to, if not now, 5 years now or 6 years from now, maybe their child is part of the LGBTQ community, or they know somebody who is and want to have a better understanding and be able to reach out and help that person. One person online who was there was a Facebook post and people going back and forth, and one gentleman based in Miller Place as a social worker, and he just came out and said, look, here's the statistics on somebody you know, who was not straight, and he cited you know, drug abuse and emotional problems because they don't have the support, and he felt that this was a great way to start engaging kids so that they can be able to, when they feel it's appropriate and when their parents feel it's appropriate, to be able to engage on the larger topic of what it means to be, you know, gay or bi or, you know, trans, or, you know, cross-dressing, or even just a drag queen. You know, there's also just the performance aspect of it that we can take away from this, that somebody just wants to perform as a persona on certain levels, and you know, we could all engage in that part of it, that's for sure. Yeah, so to me, as the mission of the library, it's right up there. We're engaging in our community. We're helping foster a positive, healthy discussion about what it means in today's age, what gender can mean and what sexuality can mean for these kids down the road. And this might help the parents to start talking about those things.